G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Badges. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yourself?
Tired. It is 4 a.m, but that is the ropes.
Yes.
But I wanted to do a video of our impressions. I've been having a bit of trouble getting a hold of Algrid, so I thought I'd grab you instead. Because Algrid's still having some PC issues, but he should be...
I'm always playing second fiddle, it's fine.
You're definitely fiddling something. If anyone sees the outtakes of this video, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, but it's true. So I thought we'd start with the STV, or STV? STD? I don't know. It's one of those acronyms anyway.
It's definitely an STV, but yes.
Yeah, so...
Something on your mind there, something you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, I know. But the it's a very zippy little vehicle. I would say I've been doing a few bunker missions with it over the last couple of days. It's one of the better vehicles in the game at the moment. Drives better than the Cyclone too now. Even with the... Like, I went back and I actually tried the Cyclone and also tried the Ursa and a few of the others. Just with the way they've been refactored, this is still really good. And it's just unfortunate that that's the way they've kind of made it the best kind of vehicle in the game. It's not the fastest though. There is technically a Cyclone that's faster. But yeah, it handles really well, and it is really good for doing bunker missions because there's actually, like I'll show you, there's a little storage box on the back.
Yeah.
And whoa, what's going on there? All right. So yeah, you can access storage on this little top button, so you can actually put things into it, like unlike some of the other vehicles. This I haven't used yet, but it gimmickly has 2 boxes, and I've had people tell me the worst thing about it is for the cargo delivery mission ones, it needs 3 for some of them. So people are saying, I'm wondering if I can store a box on the front seat and stuff like that. So yeah, does have some cool component stuff that'll obviously come in later, so I'm not going to go into this too much, but you know, you can see that. I thought this one was cool. I thought this was kind of amusing. The fuel cap is under the Greycat logo.
Nice.
I thought that was really cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I'm obviously running the Concierge skin. I've looked at a few of the other skins. I do find it ironic that the default is exactly the same as the default Cyclone skin. They've got this black, white, and orange combo. But yeah, that's kind of just my impressions of the SRV. Have you had a chance to drive it yet?
I haven't. No. I've got to say, I think of all the vehicles they've done, I don't know if it's that big wheel on the back or it's just the overall shape, but it feels like one of the more cartoony ones that they've done.
If that wheel actually becomes a thing that you can use in the future, but I can't see... Have they talked about tire replacement gameplay? I just don't see it being a thing. So
I can imagine we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Car repair mechanic simulator in space citizen thing. Yeah.
So yeah, there's some things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. Most of them though are the fact that it feels like they nerfed everything else to make this feel better. But that's again, it'll change in time, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, overall, I'm for $35. It's definitely the LTI token of the year, so to speak. If you're considering or knowing you're going to be upgrading to a ship, I'd highly recommend picking a couple up. And especially if you know you're going to be buying something bigger or upgrading, there's no harm in buying them and melting them and buying them back later because it's already in game. The price isn't going to increase. So, but again, I can't imagine it's going to be that expensive when you got a Cyclone for $55 and they cost like what $230,000 to buy. You know, what is this one going to be $150,000 to buy a game, which is really cheap and 6 months from now. So it's not an own for me, but it's still really cool. And it's definitely going to be something I will look forward to gathering in game. So yeah,
absolutely.
I think I'll also say, we were talking before the show, and if this video, every 500 likes that this video gets, I'll give away an SOE. Or an STV, and I'm terrible with these acronyms. What is it? STV? STV? Someone will roast me in the comments. ST. I'm just going to call it the STD because I think it's funny. Yeah. Yeah. So for every 500 likes we get on this video, we'll give away one of those, and I might even see if I can chuck in a concierge skin on every single one, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, we've got to get to 500 likes. I don't even think we'll get to 1, but hey, we'll see what happens. So yeah. with that, then we will move on back to the blazer. Give me 2 seconds. This one. Yep. Oh, wrong one. This one. I knew I was going to hit the wrong button, but we'll keep going. All right. So, the spirit. I think that's the next thing we'll talk about. So let's click it over to that. What's your initial thoughts on the spirits?
I was quite taken with the design when they first showed it. You know, it's eye-catching. And it's you spend a couple seconds looking at it. It's obviously Crusader, but it's not. It's not just. You know, there are bits there from the Ares. You've got the very obvious like engine language at the back end. You know, you've got the VTOL kind of system that's very reminiscent of the Hercules. So it's got, you know, it's an interesting way to start going with the Crusader stuff.
I had a really weird conversation with someone complaining that the tractor beam was on the back. I'm like, well, how are you going to get stuff into the cargo bay? And he's like, oh, no, you need to pull it towards your ship. And but yeah, that's
turn your ship round and then point it at the stuff. Point the back at the stuff and then put it in the hangar.
Yeah, and his thing was, well, why don't they have someone at the back so you can actually do it manually? But then it means you need a third person. So if you have it remote, they can just control it through a screen.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're making up all these things to make more people. It's a 2-person ship. But but I think for me the obvious choice is the C1 over the other two. To me, I think you and I talked about this before the show, but so I'll let you say your part because I think you kind of said this and I agree with you. So about the modules.
I think this is going to end up very much like the Avenger is, where the Avenger Stalker, the Avenger Titan, all that sort of stuff. They are modular. At the moment, they're sold individually because we don't have that modularity system. This talks about the central section being the bit that changes everything. You know, obviously later on we'll be able to change around the remote turret from tractor beams to other stuff, potentially. You know, but certainly that central section, it feels like these two will become modular.
Yeah. And you can kind of almost see this middle part in the middle. It reminds me a lot of the Buck system with the Vanguard. Like it's just a bigger module for a Vanguard, but you know, we'll have to kind of wait and see in that regard. But yeah, I think the C1 is where it's at. I do think that there is a need for a smaller bomber. I'm not exactly sold on whether it's the Star Bomber or not. But I think maybe it is, and what the Star Bomber was a couple of years ago has kind of morphed in and joined this. I do think it is very obvious that the I'm going to butcher this because I always get it wrong. The E1 is the test bed for things like the Genesis Starliner and stuff like that, because it's reducing the crew down to 6 is far more manageable, especially if you've got to have AI do that stuff. So it's having a smaller ship that's just one little area rather than this big massive ship. It condenses it.
And 6 passengers helps. There's less pathfinding.
Yeah.
There's less stuff for them to muck around with. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the nav mesh is pretty simple. Besides the elevators, it's basically a flat singular floor and then a second floor and 2 elevators. So it's a lot simpler. One thing I do like about this ship, actually, believe it or not, and it actually, you can see it fairly evidently here in the skins, is the VTOLs. I do really think that's a really cool holdover from the Hercules series. And as you said, you can see the Ares in this ship and stuff like that. I want to now see another longer ship, because see how it's got that length to it? It almost has a bit of a Freelancer vibe to it as well. So I'm half expecting something that's a little bit longer now at some point. Maybe that is a bit of the Genesis in there. You know what I mean? Because the Genesis is fairly long. But it's a square shape instead of the round of the Genesis. But you get what I'm getting coming at. So, yeah, the other tale that kind of matches up what you said about the modules rather than variants is the fact that the skins work on all 3 ships. You can take this green skin and you can put it on the other 2 variants, and the same thing with the red one and vice versa. The other thing you'll notice though is they don't mention this at all that I can find, but that looks like a scanner like off the Mercury Star-Runner.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm wondering if that's specifically on there for the bombing runs. You know, links up with the laser targeting stuff or something to that nature. But it is a scanner, and I haven't. Well, you correct me if I'm wrong, but besides the scanning based data ships, we haven't really seen that type of scanner on another ship before. At least to my knowledge. No. Like I could have totally be off the mark here, but I haven't seen anywhere else besides data runners.
No, you've got kind of like you've got the ground facing stuff, which is what it put me in mind of on the Prospector and the Odyssey.
Yep.
And that kind of it looked like that to me.
Yep. 100%.
But yeah, you're entirely right. It does look like the MSR one as well. I just hadn't made the connection.
So it's just a little strange, like, because it's not something that I've associated with bombing ships, right? So I'm wondering if it's something they're going to retroactively go back and say chuck on the A2, or is it just happen to be this one has it externally where all the others have had the scanners internally? I don't know. It's a big unknown. Yeah. So I'd like to see what that turns out being. I don't know. Maybe they just needed something to distinctually make them look all different. Because obviously, if I go through the skins here, you know, window, scanner, nothing. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of strange. I do wish they'd talk about it a little more, but they haven't. Yeah. So yeah. Is there anything else you would specifically like to go over in regards to the Spirit?
No, I just think, you know, I'm kind of glad that it's not just another fighter. You know, it's nice to see that we've got the VIP version and we've got the cargo version. You know, it's interesting that Crusader seem to be building themselves into the bomber niche.
That is true.
Not very humanitarian of them, although I suppose you could try and make the argument that maybe that they were initially designed to bomb effectively humanitarian supplies, airdrop humanitarian supplies. But I think that's a bit of a stretch, to be honest. But yeah,
it would be cool to see in lore if they had taken and modified it for nefarious purposes. That would actually be pretty good and quite funny.
Absolutely.
But I do think it is kind of interesting that they are falling into the bomber niche, as you said. But also, it lines this ship up with the Ares, funnily enough, because they both take off from medium pads and stuff like that. So one of the things someone brought up was both the Kraken could deploy 2 of these to a planet. So, you know, you've kind of got that space station-y thing with the Kraken in orbit, and then 2 bombers go down, you know? So that's kind of interesting. It's something I hadn't thought of before, and I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out, given the period of time. All right, well, other than that, we're kind of waiting for the Q&A, obviously. There are a lot of... So I'll just go over this really briefly, because I don't want to kind of...
Just the matrix of lies being wrong and... Yeah.
So if you look at apparently they're going to update this brochure to be more detailed or correct or whatever, but there's just some weird things that don't line up, because the cargo variant should have more cargo than the other 2, yet they all say the same. Oh, wait. Cargo capacity is now NA. Oh, they fixed this in like the last hour. Are you serious? Okay. Wow. So there's no cargo on the E1, no cargo on the A1. Wow. And only 48. So that changes everything. Wow, talk about timing. Yeah. So things like this, the utility mount, this does a tractor beam where these guys have turrets. Does this still have the turret? No, turret is completely gone on this. The guns, though, 2 size wings, 3 fixed TBD, 2 nose gimbal size 3 wings, 3 fixed. Yeah. So the guns are the same. It's just that it loses the turret. Okay, cool. Yeah. It doesn't have bombs. It did have bombs yesterday, the E1. It now just has missiles, and the E1 does have missiles and it does have bombs. All right, so this one has missiles and it does. Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry, yeah. Weapons are the same, and then the only thing that changes is the internal part, basically, or a turret or no turret. Okay, that's way clearer than it was. So lucky we came here and checked, and I just find that ironically funny because I literally checked this before the show, and it was not like this. So it's literally just been updated. That's ironically funny timing. But again, for me, now knowing what I know, I still think the C1 is the better choice. And my reasoning for that is actually something we haven't talked about, is the Cutlass Black and the Freelancer. This is so close to the Cutlass Black, it's not funny. Like, it is so close, the C1. And what's your thoughts on that? I'll let you kind of speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the cargo size on the Cuddy Black? I forget.
46.
So, crikey, they are almost
identical. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious, kind of the Crusader one you would expect to cost a lot more in game, in terms of build quality, and obviously Crusader, like Origin, they go for all the upmarket parts and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be, in terms of gameplay, obviously, the thing you would expect the Spirit to rely on is speed. Yep,
I agree with you.
So, yeah, because I'm just looking at the shield emitters there. They said small, it's still a size 2.
So they did. So yesterday it literally said one small shield, and then in brackets it said S2 times 1. So it's like, is it small or is it medium? Because size 2 is medium. So they've clarified it today, and it's now size 2, which means it is medium, which also is exactly the same size as the shields for the Cutlass. So it's very similar to the Cutlass. I would, like, looking at the terminology and what we know of the manufacturers, you would assume Drake would be upgunned. So it's like the scissors, when I refer to rock, paper, scissors stuff. If you actually looked at the Freelancer, I would expect that to be more defensive, so that's kind of like the rock. And then I'd actually think this is kind of the paper, the outlier. And in this case, they've gone for speed. And when you look at all three of those things, you can argue about the fighting and all that. I don't care about that. This is a cargo ship. You want the speed. If you are every day, 90% of the time, what you are doing is delivering stuff, this is going to have the advantage. And also, they tend to have a lot of VTOL stuff as well. But that said, the Freelancer did originally have VTOL. It doesn't anymore. They changed it. And the Cutlass still does have VTOL. But I think you would argue Crusader seems to be, especially with the way the Hercules flies, that's probably going to change though. But to me, I think this might be the ship of those three to go for. I don't know, right? Because again, it's a first impressions type thing. But does that kind of line up for you as well, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's, if it does go modular, and that's a little bit of a gamble, of course, we don't know for sure, but it definitely does seem to fit for all the reasons we've stated. The Avenger style, where it is eventually going to become that they are modular and they just switch out.
Yep.
Then the C1 would certainly seem to make sense. Unless you've got a burning desire to do the other stuff, obviously the completionists who want all three, it clearly doesn't matter that it'll be modular to them.
I know a few people that do have all three.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I find really interesting is from the side. So I think they call it the profile. From the side image is just how similar it looks to the Nautilus.
Oh, do you mean the Normandy from?
No. So actually, from the Nautilus, if you close the mine laying. Oh,
you actually mean the Nautilus?
Of the Nautilus.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. The Aegis. Okay. They are remarkably similar from the profile. I think it was in the. I think it was in the brochure.
Well,
but they're very similar.
Well, Piggles actually messaged me like while the live stream was going on at Citizen Con. Have you seen the new ship? It just looks straight like the Normandy from Mass Effect, and it does to me. It is heavily influenced by that. Is it smaller? Yes, but it is very, very, very similar. I like it. I really do. I am kind of like I just there's something I really like about it. I can't put a finger on it, but I know at the end of the day it's going to be an earning game. It's just the way it is. I know the price of it and stuff like that. We'll probably pick one up to review and do a review on it. Will we get all three? Probably not. We'll probably just get one of them. But again, I think the C1 is where it's at just because of the versatility. I kind of look at what we have with the Cutlass already. The Cutlass Black, the red, and the blue. You just give up so much, especially if you're talking about right now, right? The cargo is kind of really active at the moment. The other two are not so much. Over time, the blue and the red will come around to being, just as good because they'll have their gameplay. But I think right now is what I'm talking about. Say this is a year away, right? I don't know how long away it is. Let's just say it's a year away. In a year's time, only the red may come into play. You know what I mean? And I would expect to see the C1 go into game before the other two, and then maybe the A1, because again we don't have the gameplay for the E1. In fact, if you want to look at it, it could be the E1 holding up the whole production of this ship. If you think about it, if they are insistent on putting them in at the same time, they didn't do that with the Hercules, so I've got to imagine they're not going to do that here. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, then I think we'll kind of wrap it up there. You can tell I've been tired though because I've been hitting all the wrong buttons. But yeah, so if you like this type of content, give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to go the extra mile on Patreon, do that as well. Help us out with new gear like my new camera. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it hasn't shut down. It's been brilliant. But yeah, it's made a really big difference. I can already tell the quality's better, and hopefully we don't have any more issues, so that'd be good. But next on the list is Badges. To get him a better one, we've got him up with a temporary webcam, so he's gone from no face to, well, one that only a mother could love. But we'll fix that. We have the tools, don't we? No, he's gonna kill me. I am so dead after this show. Is there anything you want to add? What would you like to see in the comments, Badges?
Who do you think's prettier, me or Execute?
Oh, there's a fighting words. We're in trouble now. I thought you were going to say my name and address so you could come around and show me what for, but okay.
They're in the previous video.
Yeah, so I'd like to know what you think about what we've talked about today. The STD for me is a little bit, it's an earning game, 100%. Is it cool? Yes, it's cool, but it's not purchase worthy like most vehicles for me, right? So it comes back to these. Do you guys agree with us? We did do a poll on the live stream, by the way, while we were doing it, and most people, it was like 70% of people said that the C1 is where it was at, and then it was the A1, and then it was it went down to 7% for the E1. Yet a lot of the people that pick up things like, those Origin people that I know, they were all into that E1 type stuff. So it was really interesting to see what people found interesting. And I'm going to be honest, if I was going for a bomber, I'd probably still go for the A2. But there is a certain advantage to a smaller ship that can just get there quicker. So I think the A1 is going to be one of those things that age well. You know what I mean? Like we won't see its gameplay to down the road. But with that, leave us your thoughts in the comments below. Badges, is there anything you want to hear in the comments besides who's more attractive?
Well, we know who's winning that.
Well, I've got to if I shave, I win, right? So I'll shave, and then we'll put up 2 photos in the community tab, and we'll see.
If you shave, you'll get ID'd at the shops. No, I would have voted E1. I quite like that. The idea of the small executive transport, I think it suits Crusader down to the ground.
Actually, I agree with the executive transport. Yeah, it does. It really does have that business savviness about them, don't they? So yeah, I'd agree with that.
So and the STV is, it's another ground vehicle. I'm really interested in seeing something that's more along the lines of the Ursa, more traditional sort of space exploration as opposed to open to the atmosphere. But yeah, as it goes, and I know because it's more of a racing thing that there are going to be a lot of people happy with the STV, and I'm pleased for them.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, with that, he's been Badges. I've been Execute. I'll catch you in the next one.